Welcome back to the channel, my friends. Warhammer Man Studios. I'm Warhammer Man, and today we're taking a look at the potential miniature of the year for 2023. This video is sponsored by CMO Games. More on that later. Miniature of the year 2023. Vote for your favorite model today. It's been another dynamite year for Warhammer miniatures, with 2 returning Primarchs amidst the intense competition for the top spot in this year's Miniature of the Year awards. In just a few moments, we'll be able to choose which model you think deserves the crown, from humbled teams of Adeptus Arbites Enforcers to world-rending Chaos Champions. Some stunning new heroes have joined the battle in the 41st Millennia and the Mortal Realms, giving Lionel Johnson and Angron a real run for their money. In Warhammer 40,000, Vashtor the Archvane's machinations bore fruit and tore a baleful hole through the Materium, whilst the Twin-Tailed Crusade saw legendary figures like Talia Vedra and Trug the Troggoth King rise to promise in the Warhammer Age of Sigmar. Later in the year, Commander Farsight took to the fights to the orcs in stylish new battlesuit, while the towering Cerastus Knight Lancer, and later its Archeron and Castigator counterparts, made its first appearance in plastic. Then, as the snow began to fall, 2 special Christmas miniatures stole the show, as the Red Gobbo Surprise got up to mischief and the Grot Skits made off with all the presents. This year also saw the arrival of Clonk, everyone's favorite Rockbrow Squig. Alright, so here we see a couple of the awesome models broken down by month. So January, we saw the Eternus model, also Chaos Lord on Steed, dual kit, which is always nice. February, we saw Angron, obviously an awesome demon Primarch for Warhammer 40,000, and in my opinion, one of the top 3 most likely to win. In March, we saw the Rules Lawyer, which is clever, but obviously not going to win. April, again, we saw a Primarch in Lionel Johnson, and again, one of the top 3 in my opinion. And in May, we saw the reinvention of the Seraphon. June was our launch of the Tyranids, and the very cool new reinvention of the Screamer Killer. And then we saw in July Commander Farsight, which is an absolutely amazing model. And I think for me, he is battling for the 3rd spot in the top 3 with the Knight Lancer. Now the Knight Lancer model itself is pretty cool, and it's a reinvention of an old model, but doesn't see like a ton of like improvements or changes other than the fact that it's in plastic. And while it is big, I think probably Farsight wins out. Now I personally love Trog the Troggoth King, and of course I'm a huge fan of Squigs, and Clonk is very cool for sure, but I'm just not sure that they really have an opportunity to take the prize this year. And then in October, we saw Talia Vedra. Again, very cool model, probably the best Manticore ever made. November, the reinvention of the Necrons with the new Lord and a bunch of old characters reimagined. And then in December, we saw the new Red Gobbo, and then of course the Grot Skits as well, riding on the Squig, which is always nice and everything. But I think we have a clear top 3 spots in no particular order. In February, Angron, April, the Lion, and then July, Farsight. And now we're going to take a look here later in the article at some of the previous year's winners, and I think it's going to be pretty obvious who the top 2 contentions are. The Forces of Chaos once held a monopoly over Miniature of the Year winners, but have since been cowed by the sterling appearances of the Orcs and Eldari. Will Angron's Rebirth secure another win for them in 2023? Here are some of the previous winners to help you decide if the Red Angel has what it takes. Alright, so Avatar of Cain in 2023, and he is essentially what I would refer to as the Primarch of the Eldari, so it makes sense that he would win. And then we see Be'lakor, the Dark Master, and he's not quite on Primarch status from 2022, but obviously a beautiful model. And again, one of those massive like centerpiece models. And it's worth note also that he is technically like a dual kit, or at least has options for Warhammer 40k and Sigmar, which is something we haven't ever seen with one of the winners, at least not in the recent years. And then moving on, we have Ghazghkull Thraka 2020, and again, I consider him to be the equivalent of like an Orc Primarch. Absolutely beautiful model, deserves to win. And then we see Abaddon the Despoiler 2019, so he's not quite on Primarch level status, but is legendary nonetheless. So again, not surprising to see that he would have won, as he is basically like the Guilliman of Chaos, but not quite Primarch status. And then going back to 2018, we saw the Noise Marine, which is a really cool model, but in my opinion, not nearly as cool as the rest of these models. Obviously the scale, this is like a normal Space Marine size model. It's very cool and everything, and obviously I'm pulling for Emperor's Children for the new army this year, at least 2024 I should say. Very cool, but in my opinion, clearly outclassed by the rest of these. And then of course 2017 was Mortarion, Demon Primarch of the Death Guard, and rightfully so, a winner. And then before that, 2016, Magnus the Red. And then that brings us back around to 2022. So after having a good look at these, it's very clear that the majority of the winners are essentially each army's like Primarch equivalent. They're large, like monster-sized models with the exception of the Noise Marine. And of course, we will notice that all of these models are Warhammer 40k models, obviously with the note that Be'lakor is technically Sigmar model as well. So based on these statistics, just looking at it from an analytical sense, we would expect that it's going to be a Warhammer 40k model, as it has been every year here. And then we would expect also that it's going to be like a monster or Primarch equivalent, as all but the Noise Marine fall in that category. Now a quick message from today's sponsor. CMO Games has been selling Games Workshop products online for over 20 years. They carry the full line of Games Workshop products, including Warhammer 40,000, Age of Sigmar, Necromunda, Blood Bowl, paint tools, and more. Almost all Games Workshop products are priced at 15% off MSRP. CMO Games takes pre-orders for most Games Workshop products released at their earliest date possible. 12:01 a.m. on Saturday, they go live. Most of these pre-order products are also priced at 15% off MSRP. CMO Games offer free shipping in the US 48 with an order of $50 or more. Their customer service is top-notch and they ship most orders within 24 hours. Visit CMOGames.com using the affiliate link in the description and let them know that you heard about CMO Games from Warhammer Man. Now back to the video. So if we do just jump back up here and take a look at those criteria, which would bring us back to my top three. First off, February, Angron, the Demon Primarch of the World Eaters. April, Lionel Johnson, the Dark Angels Primarch. And then, of course, in July, we had the new Farsight, which is essentially the equivalence of the Tau Primarch. All 40k models, all like larger monster equivalents. And then, of course, like I talked about in August, we have the Knight Lancer and his buddies. But it's not really that great of an improvement. It's more just that it's in plastic now. So we do have two other large models, but both of them are Sigmar, Trug the Trog King, which is cool and everything, but we're never going to see the same level of excitement for a Sigmar model as we see in 40k, with the exception of like our Be'lakor situation where that was like a dual purpose model. And then of course Talia Vedra, very, very cool and everything, but Cities of Sigmar are really not that popular, and it seems very unlikely that she would win. So now that we have it narrowed down to February, July, and April, I do really, really like the Farsight model. I think it's absolutely beautiful. And the community did an amazing job knocking it out of the park with their different various paint schemes and whatnot. But he just doesn't stand up to Angron and the Lion. But the truth is, I don't know if I could pick one between these two. I mean, obviously the Lion is very cool and a beautiful model, a Primarch and 40k. But the sheer like size, scope, and just uniqueness of Angron probably sets him apart, at least like slightly more. Now, typically, if we compare Chaos to our regular Astartes, I would say Astartes going to always win out. But in this case, I'm not so sure. So for me, it's like a 50-50 coin toss between these two. So that being said, there is still time to cast your vote now and help decide who's crowned Miniature of the Year 2023. But don't dawdle. You've only got less than 2 weeks to make your voice heard, as voting ends Tuesday, the 19th of December. And there is a link here to vote for 2023. All right, and it's going to take us over here, and there are a ton of choices, not just what we saw right there. But the truth is, again, I'm going to keep it pretty simple. I don't think there's going to be some crazy upset or something like that. Now, of course, it is possible. But for me, the choice is easy. I do love World Eaters. I'm all about blood for the blood god and skulls for the throne of corn. But the truth is, I'm no traitor. So it's got to be Lionel Johnson. And I don't talk about it a lot, but my first miniatures ever in Warhammer 40,000 were back in the Rogue Trader days. And for some reason, as soon as the line expanded, I just absolutely fell in love with the Eldari. So the Avatar of Cain was an easy choice for me previously. But my first actual army for Warhammer 40,000, like a complete 2,000 point army completely painted, was in fact Dark Angels. Now I don't have that army anymore. I sold it as I got a little bit older. And to tell you the truth, the models were terrible back then, and so were my paint jobs. But I'm no traitor, so the easy answer for me is Lionel Johnson. So that's it. All submitted, all done. That's a wrap. So let me know if you agree with my rationale, if you think it's going to be a 40k model, if you think it's going to be a large like monster equivalent, most likely a Primarch. And of course, if you are not a traitor, I'm assuming you too will vote for the Lion. But obviously I'm kidding, but not really. So remember, the Emperor is watching. Let me know down in the comments who you voted for. Always like to hear back from you guys. And special thanks to CMO Games for sponsoring the video. Check out the link in the description to save 15% on Games Workshop products. That's it for today. Warhammer Man Studios, I'm Warhammer Man. And if you're real quiet, in the distance, you can hear the lions roar. And I'm out of here.